puts us in a very powerful position to create.
Correct.
Nothing around in the universe that we've seen came before there was a thought about it. It's all because of someone had thoughts about it and then manifest this world, our cars, our phones, everything.
Tetris. By the way, I recommend the movie. You guys should watch it.
I saw your posts.
It was a very good movie, man.
Was it a Russian that did that? What was the story?
It was a Russian with an American. It was a relationship based on a true story. It's about the story of how the video game Tetris came about, which started in Russia. I didn't know that. I had no freaking clue. And it was around the time Russia was in the decline from communism, when USSR was kind of falling apart, and all the government officials were kind of all rogue, just trying to get whatever money they can from whatever deals. And but what caught my heart about the movie, what was gripping and what sucked me into the movie, was the way the story was told, which was like, it's a story of this Russian guy who grew up in communist Russia, didn't have a shot in life. Like, life was just, it's over, man. I'm a slave, right? And he creates this thing out of frustration on a computer because he had access to work on a computer in one of their office buildings or whatever. And some guy from Ukraine or somewhere in that region shows up, and he buys the rights to stuff. Like, he thinks it's going to be a good idea. He bought the rights to that computer game. He went back to England somewhere, and he sold it to a bigger company who never paid him, right? So he made a verbal agreement with, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad.
Really?
Yeah. What's his name? Robert Maxwell.
Okay.
This is so creepy, dude, that this is all tied in. So he and who ends up becoming the villain of the show, right?
Maxwell?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the biggest freaking villain. And so basically he doesn't pay anybody. He runs a $1 billion corporation, and he already took money out of the pension funds of his employees, and like, you discover all this little shit as it's going through, and he's making deals with people in Russia and officials, but he's got no money, but he's just making deals. He's just like, all right, I'll pay you $1 million for this and $1 million for that. So you see that all through the movie, but the hero, the guy who's the American guy, lives in Japan. He's married to a Japanese woman, but he was born in Dutch, but his dad was American. So he's like this multi-faceted kid, which I relate to. Because, a mixture of all these. He's a global kid, but he's got an American accent. He's got his mustache, and it's the 80s, man. So he's got this 80s jacket on, and and Nintendo, he makes a deal with Nintendo because he thought he bought the rights from Maxwell. Turns out, as this movie's unraveling, he's realizing they never owned the rights. So he flies to Russia on a tourist visa, which was illegal to do because he went on business, and then walks right into the government building and starts negotiating. And the whole movie is basically that, unraveling, like the process. And I was like, man, Tony's got to see this movie.
So the guy who wrote it ended up getting credit for it, or no?
In the end, so what I loved about it was that why this guy was successful in the end, the hero, the guy who finally got Tetris all over the world, and was that his motives changed through the movie. Initially, it was like, I got to get rich. I got to, I mortgaged my wife's house, and I did all this crazy stuff on this game was pulled out from under me like a rug. And now I'm flying all over the world trying to get rights for it. And it's turning into this thing. His life is unraveling. His focus shifts to like, man, I got to help this guy. This guy's not going to get a penny for this. So he gets really enamored or close to the creator of the game because he met him. And they went over his house, and they even made some tweaks and developed the game more, and they built a bond. And the movie actually was him telling him, like, you don't know how lucky it is for you to be an American, that you could create something and you could be rewarded for your hard work. In Russia, we don't have that. And if only Americans knew. So there's like all these little nuanced things they drop in the film, which I don't know if it's true or not, but it made good points. And it made me realize, like, yeah, it's true. We do take the life we have now and the ability to,
it ties back to our conversation, because that's what the kids haven't been taught, is that our government's whole existence is based around the protection of your freedom.
Yeah. Correct.
I guarantee you there's not one kid graduating from high school that understands that.
Not today.
Not because of maybe their parents taught them. That would be the only case. Certainly didn't learn it from school.
Right.
They don't even have civics courses in school anymore.
Yeah.
So there's been the takeover of the education system, the takeover of the pharmaceutical industrial complex, the takeover of the media industrial complex, military industrial complex, financial industrial complex. It's all been compromised, and it's been used to basically enslave humanity, which has been the status quo for thousands of years.
Correct.
We're an anomaly. So are we going to lose it? Or are we going to stand up and take our freedom back? Or to, not let it get completely disappear, because it has largely been taken.
No, when I was in the military, I served in the National Guard here in Ottumwa. Yeah, no, I didn't go overseas.
You know Radar O'Reilly? Radar O'Reilly? He's from Ottumwa. Did you ever see the show called MASH?
Yeah.
Radar O'Reilly was the radio guy.
Oh, okay.
And his backstory was he's from Ottumwa.
Oh, cool. Yeah, well, I served in Ottumwa as a demolition expert. That was my MOS or job. But when we were in boot camp, I remember that while we were, so you had to go chant. You know the whole chanting when you're marching from place to place on base.
Sure.
They get you on everywhere I go, there's a drill sergeant there, right? That type of stuff. So you're marching and singing. And there was one where it's like, that's right, privates, freedom isn't free. And I was like, freedom isn't free. The whole day bothered me. I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Freedom isn't free. And we kept going. So I was such an idiot. I was like, 21 at the time, I think. 22, somewhere around there. And we get to the firing range, because we were marching to the firing range to do a range fire, which I hated, by the way. I'm horrible with guns. I know I'm a big gun advocate, but I'm horrible at shooting. And okay, yeah, this full disclosure, I don't own one yet, but I got to be careful now. Now I have to get one. So I asked, and I turned to the kid next to me. I was like, hey, man, why we keep saying freedom isn't free? And he was like, are you serious? He looks at me like I'm dumb, which I was. I was dumb. I was like, because then why is it free if it's not free? And then he's like, because in order to stay free, you got to fight for it. Nobody's going to want you to be free or stay free. That's the depth of what he was trying to say to us. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I am such an idiot. I literally was, because I was looking at it from the consumeristic perspective, right? I didn't take it to that depth of what he said. And it's true. It's like, that's what's happening right now. It's like, our freedom means nothing if we don't know that we have to defend it and exercise it like a muscle, right?
So this brings me back to the point that I mentioned earlier about, there came a point when I was like, okay, this is not beating my head against people that just have been deceived,
right?
And making them wrong for it is not gonna make life better for anybody. It's certainly just wasting a lot of my time and energy.
Right.
So there's better things that I can do, or there must be another way. And it does seem that the other way is to allow the cabal or the people that have taken over to run their course, allow that to run, to give them the rope they need to hang themselves, to give them the slack, and to let everybody see. Like, you've heard all this stuff in all the different Trump circles about, you can't tell people, you have to show them, or you have to let them see for themselves, kind of thing. I forget what the phrase is, but it seems like that is what has been happening. And as they do more and more absurd shit, people are waking up more and more. And so at the same time, you've got people that are building these layers of the new decentralized civilization that we're all going to be a part of. Like, heaven on earth is here. It's just, we're building it right now. This new economy, this new kind of, like, nature doesn't run. There's nothing that you can find in nature where there's centralized management or intelligence. It's all decentralized. And
it's how tribal civilizations were back in the day. I think we're naturally going to have that in us no matter what is attempted.
Yeah, so that's why I'm optimistic that all of this attempts to continue to centralize and consolidate power and control is kind of like...
Dude, I was such an advocate for depopulation. What's this other one? One world government. When I was younger, I would say probably in my teens, between the ages of 17 until about 23, around there. I would say until I joined the military, so about 21, 22. Prior to that, I was on board with this shit, and then I started going back, trying to remember, like, why was I thinking that way? Why was I in that mindset? And primary school, when I was in school, I remember being taught that there's a hole in the ozone layer. The planet is filled with too many people. We have to depopulate or whatever. We're all just this cosmic accident. This was in school, like growing up, learning this shit. So like that was the 90s going into the early 90s, I think.
Well, the whole whole theory of evolution is really just, it's designed to detach you from God. It really is. And then so you have to look to government as your God, some higher authority. You have to look to man. You know, the idea that Newtonian physics is where it's at, billiard ball physics, that, that the theory of evolution, that we evolved from nothing, that there is no creator or no intelligence or order in the universe. It's all chaos and smashing together of things. And I've learned over time that that's insanity. That's completely wrong.
Yeah.
Well,
so in a way, it's not our fault. Like, we're just bombarded with all this propaganda from the time we're kids.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah. It's not our fault. We were conditioned.
So we waking up is no easy feat, guys. I mean, if you're one of those who are becoming more aware or have the privilege of seeing or noticing something you didn't before, don't beat yourself up, because like every one of us starts with the same backstory, and we all have like that catalytic moment where you get punched in the face and you're like, oh shit, I was actually going to condone the eradication or genocide of X amount of people on the planet simply because I was told like this planet doesn't have enough space for everybody. So we got to do something about it without considering the ramifications of such an idea. Right? Who gets to choose what kind of people get killed off? Who gets to decide? You get what I'm saying? Like there's so many rabbit holes you go down with just that alone. Right?
Definitely.
So like, I get it. Tying back the God thing, by the way, I want to say that it's a privilege to have your forefathers write into the Constitution the idea that God gave us these rights. Now, most people don't understand why that's significant. And it's not a religious reason. It's actually far deeper than that. If you put in writing or in law that these were given to you by God, God-given rights, no man can take them from you, which is why it was written in that order, in that way. So it's not a religious thing. It is kind of, because you're trying to build your foundation for your country, which is an idea. It's just an idea. Country is an idea, right? These guys got together and said, hey, we just got independence from this ruling country that, ruled with an iron fist around that time, which was the British, Great Britain at the time, right? Was it England? It was like England, France, and the Dutch and Spain. I think they were all like the four major economical powers at that time, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Tony.
I don't know the answer to that question.
But I think they looked at all the available options that were in the world and said, we're creating something new. What should we do? And they looked at all the different avenues this would go, which is why I think the document was written in such a very broad way, was to allow for the shifts and the changes that would naturally occur.
A milestone was the Magna Carta that started to establish a baseline upon which we could then get to individual freedom.
Right.
It's nuance, and there's evolutions that took place, other milestones in between then and the U.S. Constitution. But about waking up and being awakened from the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, and I never do this, I'm not a Jesus guy, He said, "Let one who seeks not stop seeking until that person finds, and upon finding, the person will be disturbed. And being disturbed, we will be astounded, and then we will reign over the entirety." So when you wake up, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to freak out.
Yeah.
And you're going to be fucking pissed or scared or both.
Yeah.
And then you will enter into this wonder of what's really out there. And that's where the self-discovery starts to happen. And, you know, and then eventually you get to the point, once you realize that that's all fake and false, then you start to develop what your own truth is.
And the real power kicks in.
And then you become a powerful person.
Yeah.
And you reign over the universe. And
if ever there was a perfect way to tell the story of the caterpillar to the butterfly, it would be that what you just said, because that's the process. You have to go through the hardening, or like whatever, right? You're in a cocoon. The system's like the cocoon, right?
Yeah.
And then as you start waking up, trying to break out of the cocoon, you go through some pain because you're like, I gotta rip out this. So that's your pain process. That's your growing. But then once you get your wings, baby, you fly. I mean, there's no limit to where you go. Yeah, it might be generational.
No going back.
Yeah.
Just like Neo.
Yeah.
I mean, that was painful shit. He woke up and he was like, what? This is the real world? I thought all those things that...
Right.
No, man.
Yeah.
Meet Morpheus.
You take the red pill. And I show you how far the rabbit hole goes. Yeah.
Take the blue pill. Wake up in your bed.
But yeah, man.
Yep. I mean, and that movie was an allegory for awakening, you know, in the world we live in, the world of machines. It's really contracts. The machines are corporations and corporations are contracts.
And it's freeing too, because this is what, and I try to tell my mom this, and people, like you said, don't waste your time beating people up over it, because you got to let them do it on their own. But what gets frustrating is like they don't realize that when you look at it from a sober perspective of this is the reality of what it is, don't sugarcoat it. You're actually in a more powerful position to make choices and decisions that help you, help your family, help business ventures, entrepreneurship. You're actually in a empowered state where it's like, okay, how do I respond to this thing appropriately? So now you just created a business, or you created a service, or you helped create an organization that helps that thing, right? Like the waking up is a beautiful thing for society, for all of us, because so you wake up and you find out everything's fucked up. Boo-hoo. Great. You go through your crying, you're him and hollering, but then now you go, okay, how can I contribute? How can I help? How can I give back? How can I make this world not be a hell that it is right now? Which, if you think about it, every ancestor before us had to go through that for us to be here to make this podcast. Like, that's the natural progression of the thing. So my optimism about what we're going through right now comes from that realization, of that like knowing deep down that as fucked up as this is right now, like this is part of the process. This is part of the continual to grow, because we're always gonna have crazy fucked up people trying to run shit, trying to control everybody else, and getting slapped in the face once again, because history has shown that, right? But they're also a necessary evil in a way, because they're kind of like the benchmark, or like showing us like, hey, we're waiting for you. Anytime you guys want to give up this freedom shit, we're right here. We're right here to take you right back into slavery and crack the whip on you, because we're dying for that shit. So, which means that we constantly have to be in a state of, as you say, evolving, or a friction almost, to almost keep growing and evolving. There's always going to have to be that lingering dark side of us, of humanity, that's just there on the outskirts, reminding us like, anytime you slip, we got you.
And it's not just out there either.
Right.
You have to embrace, like Peterson said, what does he said? You want to be
in order for you to be a good person, you have to embrace your dark side. Like understand that in order for you to stop Hitler or prevent a Hitler, you have to almost see the Hitler in you. You have to see that you have the capacity and the capability of being Hitler. And this is a mistake
And
that
then
people make.
controlling it.
Right.
That makes a good man.
Correct.
A weak man is not a good man.
The one who doesn't recognize the Hitler in him.
A good man is the one that can destroy the fuck out of you, but chooses not to, and to protect.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's so great. We've got these manly men that have come to the surface on the internet, Tate and Trump and, you know, all
Jordan Peterson.
Even,
and there's a whole list. There's a whole line of people that we probably can't remember names
the
now.
jury's
But
still out on Elon Musk in my mind.
yeah.
I'm not sure whether, you know.
Well, here's how the good thing about Elon Musk is he's friends with people like Joe Rogan, close friends, like Joe Rogan and all these thought leaders that are. But I mean, remember, as a billionaire, you have to move in all kinds of circles, and it's not like you're not going to be involved with the cabal on some level. You have to. You're even Trump. Whoever you are, you have to move in these circles because that's the circles you're just around and moving and debating and arguing and making deals and right. So with Elon Musk, and remember, he has been sounding the alarm. And I know there's a lot of verdict out there on or stories on him that he's probably part of the cabal. Because he's bringing in the brain chip and he's going to control people or whatever, and I think it's a tough one because what he said in another interview I saw was that like if I didn't do it, somebody else would.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But he's doing it with the understanding that we're coming to a point where man and machine are merging, and the bandwidth at which we interact with the machine, meaning the speed or the throughput to getting. You know, the speed of thought to whatever you want done on a computer.
From carbon to silicon.
Is going to be the bottleneck for what's coming. And he knew that he had to jump on that as soon as possible. He's not the only one. There's hundreds of companies out there right now working on this stuff. He's just a more public one. And his application, he claims, is mainly for medical people right now, medical application at the moment. Is there a risk to that? I would say, yeah. There's always going to be a risk to this technology, just like our phone is tracking us everywhere we're going right now.
Yeah, no, I'm all for I'm all for the application of technology for health as well. Like they've got these things that you can put like a patch on your arm and it still looks like a little circuitry thing and, and it connects allows the communications to flow and it heals, you know, makes your pain go away. That should work. People are using that, like even the stem cell patches that you gave me.
Right.
You know, those are innovative ways to stimulate the body to heal itself and whatever. And if
light therapy,
if you can put a chip or some threads in somebody's brain and allow them to no longer be paraplegic, go for it. I'm all for it. But
the trick is when it becomes like how it was for the pandemic.
To AI and how the AI is, whether or not it's rolled out with checks and balances or whether they just let it go into the wild.
I think because there's enough skepticism in the public domain, that's the only thing that keeps the bad guys at bay, I think, is that there's always going to be this mix of like push and pull with technology that you find the middle ground, right? I mean, who's to say we don't develop a decentralized version of an AI that is a threat to the other AI? There's going to be a combing.
There'll be choices. I believe human beings will have choices. We can either buy in 100% to the government-issued CBDCs and digital currencies and be totally subject to the whole social credit system and or participate in private digital economies where digital assets represent a breadbasket of different things, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think people will have a choice, you know, going forward what we want to participate in, and it may be a necessary evil. We may have to carry some government money in our digital wallet in order to pay taxes or different things like that. So I'm not like super afraid of CBDCs because the free market is so far advanced.
Right.
They're going to be like, how are you going to put Bitcoin back? You can't.
Right.
And just that alone, if there were no other options, Bitcoin by itself is a way out. You know, people will be able to eventually just trade just in Bitcoin if that's what they wanted. You know, so
Yeah, they
this kind
can't.
of evolution, coexistence of opposites is,
Is always going to be there.
and has it been getting worse? I believe, like you're saying, the system's over there waving, saying, "We're here. Come on over. When you're ready to be a slave, we're waiting for you." They're like actively like trying to enslave the planet.
Right,
There's
right.
no doubt about it. There's an evil force.
But I
trying to
think that
enslave
evil force
humanity.
has always been there, just manifesting in different ways, like Genghis Khan and all this stuff, right? I like to look of it like a spirit or like an energy source. It's like a dark energy that just kind of lingers and it finds places to live. It sounds weird what I'm saying, but like that's how I see it in my head, right? Like this energy force is just living in this cabal, and then it moves and it goes, lives in this. It just
It's
moves
like
around.
a super structure or a
Right.
super
And on the
intelligence.
other end, you got that same counter intelligence that's working, right? And then in the middle of the tug and pull between the two, that's where you get this earth. That's where it's,
no doubt.
and
That's election day.
that's true. Yeah.
So is it time for a
Yeah. So,
break?
we could take a break. I think we covered a lot in that little topic. Was it like 55 minutes?
Okay.
We'll probably cut this up into a few segments because there was quite a few good segments in there.
Cool.
And we'll be back. Take a break.
Trump 2024?
Vote for whoever you want, guys. We're just kidding. It doesn't matter who you like. We're just talking. We're normal people like everybody else, and we don't care about political or sexual or identity and all that stuff. We're all human beings. Take care.